What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Steel Corner. I'm Mike Willoughby. This week we're going to be talking about setting and achieving goals within Steel Challenge. First, we're going to start off with an excerpt from the book. We're going right back to the same book, The Little Book of Talent by Daniel Coyle. And we're going to tip number 4 today, which is buy a notebook. And in this, he's talking about keeping a performance journal. He mentions daily, but in the case of shooting, I don't know that you would keep one daily necessarily. More so than when you're doing significant practice sessions or whenever you have a match. I personally have a journal that I use for any milestones that I hit or any major matches that I shoot. So I'll only update the journal. For example, the most recent entry in there was when I shot 98 seconds with the revolvers and when I shot 97 seconds in carry optics. And then before that, it was all the major matches of the year. That's about all that I log in there. I don't log practice sessions because I normally don't have any big practice sessions that are dedicated to Steel Challenge. Details that he goes into are results from the day, ideas for tomorrow, and goals for next week. That's what he talks about logging in here. There's a lot of good resources out there that talk about keeping a performance journal, shooting journal. Laney Basham with Winning in Mind, he talks about keeping a shooting journal as well. So that's the excerpt from the book today. As always, pick up a copy if you're interested. Highly recommended. Also pick up Laney Basham's books if you're serious about shooting and getting better. Let's dive into the topic today, which is setting and achieving goals. So with Steel Challenge, obviously your first goal should be to go out and safely shoot a match. And while you're doing that, you should be working on your gun handling, being safe, read the rule book, figure out what all the rules are, and then play by the rules of the game. So outside of that, once you start to get a little bit more advanced and you understand how the sport works, you understand how to be safe, your gun handling is up to par, you're not sketching people out when you come up to the line even if you aren't breaking rules, then we can start talking about some of these other types of goals. So the first thing you need to decide is what the sport is going to be to you. Is it going to be something that you are going to actively try to compete in? Are you going to try to continually get better and improve your level within the sport? Is it just going to be something social where you see a lot of great people, you go hang out with your friends on Saturdays, shoot a match, go grab lunch afterwards, and you don't really necessarily care if you keep pulling your times down or not? You don't really care to be at the top. You just have to be honest with that. There's nothing wrong with not having the goal of consistently getting better. There's nothing wrong with not having the goal of winning every match. The great thing about Steel Challenge is the repeatable courses of fire allow you to effectively compete with yourself. So even if your goals aren't to beat everybody else at the match, your goals can be to improve upon your past performances. A lot of the goals that we talk about will require significant effort and time, but improving upon your past performances may not even require that much effort depending on your level, because you'll eventually learn how to perform better under pressure, how to piece together 4 good strings and be consistent. You may not even have to do anything outside of shooting your matches to continually improve like that, depending on your level. So, you've decided what you want out of the sport. I'm going to go with the example that what you want is to improve upon your times and to be competitive at your local matches. So obviously the very first and most appealing goals that everybody sets their sights on is the next classification above what they are. And that's a really good short-term goal to have in the interim, and that's something good to work towards. However, I will caution you against only focusing on your classification. Let's preface this entire conversation with I love the Steel Challenge classification system. I think it's the only reason why so many people shoot this sport religiously and shoot it every single week. I think the classification system is what has made Steel Challenge so popular. At least in my area, we have Steel Challenge matches filling up regularly. You cannot get into some of these Steel Challenge matches if you try. A lot of the times there may be a couple spots available, but shout out again to John at Thermont. We packed out a Wednesday morning match. Who does that? This sport has a religious following, and in my opinion, it is entirely because of the way the classification system works and how it drives people to continually push their numbers lower. So, that being said, you have to be cautious when you're getting started of just setting your goals to improving your times. And the reason for that is if your goals are ultimately to win major matches, to be competitive overall, you need to be concerned with your overall time and the overall percentages that you are shooting. So instead of going up to the line, trying to shoot a personal best so you can get to the next classification level, you go up to the line and shoot consistently so that you can do well, regardless if it is a PB or not. That way, when the day is over and you've run your 8 stages, your time is consistent and in line with what you're capable of performing to. And your goal, in my opinion, sooner rather than later, should be to get your 8 stage, 6 stage overall percentage that you shoot more consistent and more competitive. To simplify that, my OSR and carry optics times have been around 95-97%. A slow day for me would be about 92%. So my goals now are I want to be consistent and I want to be approaching consistency at 100% overall. So I'm not trying to drag my PBs down. I'm not trying to get my times as low as possible. I'm trying to be consistent at the 100% mark. That is currently my goal. I'm not trying to move up the top 20 list. That's a great benefit and it's fun, but my PBs do not dictate whether I had a good day or not, because most stages I'm already over 100% on anyway. So if I can shoot what won't be a personal best, it'll just be a consistent time for me, then I'll hit my goal. And if you can shoot to that level, if you can shoot your classification, if you're a master class and you can shoot 84% across an 8-stage match, you're probably going to win master class unless somebody is doing something crazy. If you can shoot your classification and you can shoot very high within your classification, you will probably win your classification at least. And that's a side effect of the classification system because it takes our fastest times over the 8 stages. I know there has been some talk on the internet about going to more of a USPSA style classification system for Steel Challenge. I believe Zach is working that right now. I don't know that he's fully disclosed the details of that. I just saw, I believe it was on Enos, where he was talking about a proposed revision of the classification system. So if you're not familiar with USPSA, it takes your most recent 8 classifiers into account and takes your best 6 out of those. So I'm not sure if that's exactly what they were looking at for Steel Challenge or not, but in my opinion, I wouldn't really tweak the classification system. The way it is now, sure, you have a lot of people that cannot shoot their classification because they've been shooting the sport for so long. Their PBs are so low that they were able to hit the next classification up, but they may only hit that time once in their entire shooting career. They're not hitting around that time every time. So, set your goals realistically. You should be setting short-term and long-term goals, something to work on within your next few matches, something to work on for the season, and you should always have your eyes set on some larger goal. What are you working towards? Do you want to win your area match? Do you want to win the World Speed Shooting Championship? Either way, you should have your sights set on that. But that shouldn't be the only thing your sights are set on. Just like if your goal is currently to make Grandmaster, once you hit it, what are you going to do? You need to have your sights set on something beyond that. So my recommendation, if you want to class up, if you want to get faster, go ahead and set your goal to be Grandmaster, Master, whatever you want, but also have the goal of making your times more consistent. So if your goal right now is to get to Master class, your second goal should be to consistently shoot 85 to 95%, just like a Master class. If your goal is to get to Grandmaster, eventually, it's pretty hard, your goal should be to shoot 95+% at an 8-stage match. Otherwise, when you show up to a major match as a Grandmaster and you run a 72% overall, which I've done that before, I'm not talking crap about anybody, I've definitely done that before, it's going to look a little weird. And it's like, what was the point of forcing your classification up if you can't shoot to that level? My advice is to always keep in mind what your overall percentage is. A real easy way to track this is with the Match Tracker app. You can jam in your times from the day, and it will tell you what percentage of your division you shot that day. If you're not in the Match Tracker, you can also do it through the Steel Challenge app. It's not as fluid. It doesn't just spit out the number like Match Tracker does, but also works as well if you're opposed to spending the $10 on the people that support our community. All right, so you've determined what you want to get out of the sport. You've determined what your goals are. You need to decide how much effort you are willing to put in to get to your goal. If your goal is to win at your area match and you have a lot of great grandmasters in your area, and you know people travel for these matches and you're going to be up against some great nationally ranked grandmasters, you need to determine what you're willing to do to hit that goal. Because if right now you're in A class and you want to win your area match as a grandmaster, it's going to take some work. You have to be honest with yourself about the level of effort that it will take. And I think anybody can get to these goals. It's just not many people are willing to pay the price that it takes to get them. Barring extreme physical injury, I think everybody has the capability to shoot at a grandmaster level competitively, but not many people are willing to pay the price to compete at that level. So you have to determine what price you are willing to pay. If your goal is to win the world speed shoot, I hope you're willing to pay a high price, because it's going to cost a lot. It's going to cost a lot of your time. It's going to cost a lot of your life. You're going to have to be focused on your goals and pushing it constantly, and you still may not get it. Another big part of goal setting is staying focused when you don't necessarily get what you have your sights set on. You may have your sights set on, and this has happened to me every single time I focus on a specific outcome for a specific match. If I say I am going to go to this match and I'm going to get a personal best on roundabout, I will absolutely shoot my worst on roundabout. I do not think you should ever be setting goals like I am going to go to this match and I'm going to get a personal best on X stage. In my experience, that never works, never has, and I've never seen anybody who has that set as their goal actually hit it. They may get lucky, but I've never seen that play out. Focus on being consistent, focus on shooting at your ability, and when you're not at the match, that's your time to improve your ability. That way you can prove what you did at the match. So you've got to be able to stay focused on your goals. You've got to deal with plateau. When you hit a plateau, how are you going to respond? Are you going to try to switch divisions? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe that'll help. Maybe that'll take you away from your platform and distract you from your goal. Right now, I just switched back to carry optics where I started from the revolvers. I have to be real with myself about my goals for the revolvers now that I'm putting all my effort into carry optics, because more than likely, I'm probably not going to shoot at the level that I thought I would with the revolvers now that I'm putting so much into carry optics. So if you are going to have these side tracks that you go down, you need to be real with yourself and adjust your goals as needed, so that way you can stay focused on your long-term success towards those big goals that you have. But don't be scared to change your goals if you go down the track and you discover, oh, maybe this division isn't for me. Maybe I like pistols better than I like rifles. I shot a rimfire rifle for most of the first 6 months that I was shooting Steel Challenge. And then I shot a rimfire pistol and I was like, this is way better. And it's more relative, it's more related to the other platforms that I'm shooting. So why am I shooting this rifle? That's why I eventually went back to it and picked up my Grandmaster card, but I'm only at 95% with that because I shot it just enough to hit that G card and then I was done. So don't be scared to adjust your goal, but be real with yourself when you are adjusting them. It's going to cost you some time to get used to a new platform. You're not going to be performing at the level that you thought you would when you're constantly switching. One of the biggest things you have to ask yourself is, what level do you think that you can get to? Do you think that you can win an area match? Do you think that you can win the World Speed Shooting Championship? Do you think you can be a grandmaster? That will determine, no matter what you do over the rest of it, no matter what you do in practice or at the matches, your belief and your ability to do that will dictate whether you will achieve it or not. If your goal is to get to grandmaster and you don't know for a fact that you can be a grandmaster if you put in the appropriate effort, then you're never going to be a grandmaster. And if you are, you probably aren't going to shoot like a grandmaster. So be real with your goals, be real with the level of effort that you're willing to put in towards those goals, and you need to be real with your beliefs in yourself. Personally, over the last year or so, shooting has taken such a priority in my life. Before, I was working out, about 2-3 hours a day, and that was my primary goal, was training for these races and putting in a lot of miles and a lot of reps. And recently, shooting has taken the place of that. That's not all dry fire, live fire, or matches. A lot of times it's research, it's maintenance on gear, it's loading up ammo, it's watching the newest material from the other people in the community that know what the hell they're talking about. It's being educated on the topics. So it's not just showing up and shooting a match and going home and cleaning your gun once and then going back to the match the next week. You've got to be doing all these other things on the side as well. Part of that has to be factored in to what you're willing to do to hit your goal. And eventually, these things will become so part of your life become such a critical part of your life that it will just seem normal. And performing at the level that you once thought was slightly out of reach will be second nature to you. If you're willing to put in the work, if you're willing to examine your performances and determine how to improve, and your goal is to get to Grandmaster, one day you'll be sitting here thinking Grandmaster was just a bump in the road, and you'll have to figure out what's next. And that's probably the hardest part, is determining what's next for you and what level of effort you're willing to sustain to hit what's next. It's a constant juggle of things that you've achieved and what you want to achieve in the future. It's constantly balancing those two things. You have to recognize your own achievements, but you have to stay focused on what's in front of you, or else you're just going to stagnate. And if your goals are to win at a Grandmaster level, at a Master level, if your goals are to win at something that's slightly out of your reach right now, you're not going to be happy when you're stagnating because of your own lack of effort. If you're not living up to the potential that you think that you have, you're never going to be satisfied with yourself. And that is true whether we're talking Steel Challenge, physical fitness, life in general, your relationships, anything. If you know that you are capable of more and you're not living up to it because you're not putting in the effort when you could be, you will not be satisfied. All right, y'all, that will do it for me this week. I want to give a huge shout out to my buddy Patrick, who just came out with some really good looking merch. Got Run and Gun Virginia on it with the Virginia State bird, some plates and some targets. He's also got Steel Challenge Virginia. Looks great. I'll drop a link to that below. Thank you so much, Patrick, for the logo that you designed for me too. And then I also want to give a huge shout out. We're talking about goals and everything this week. And just this week, Steve Anderson dropped an episode of his podcast, and it's called 7 Things You Need to Know to Reach Your Goal. And if you've never listened to Steve Anderson's podcast, it is hugely beneficial. He's paired up with Laney Basham. He's an expert in the mental management system. So I highly recommend you listen to his podcast. Get out for a class if you can. But I'll drop the link for that 7 Things You Need to Know to Hit Your Goal podcast in the description as well. So be sure to check out those links. Thanks again. See you guys next time.